Hello and welcome to another episode of Spirituality for Badass Babes. Today I have the beautiful Katrina McGiffin with me, and Katrina is a yogi and eco nutritionist, which is amazing. I've never heard of an eco nutritionist, but that's kind of fun to say. Rolls off the tongue a little bit. Katrina provides guidance for people to reconnect with their inner truth and wisest self, to find freedom within their relationships, within themselves, within the food and their body, merging food and body together, which is so important. And nowadays, especially with everything going on, we really do need to have that connection between the food and the body. She uses guided meditation, hypnosis, chakra healings, yoga therapy, and she's also got a master's degree in human dietetics, which is in the process. Amazing, Katrina. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you. I am really excited to be here with you. Thanks for having me on.
Fabulous. So the way that I start the show off, I always ask, what makes you a spiritual badass?
Yeah, I love that you asked that. I mean, I think the definition of a spiritual badass to me is somebody who is willing to really move fully into and through their spirituality. So, we have a lot of this kind of surface level spirituality that's easy to dip our toes into. But as you know, and anybody that's really gone into the depths of spirituality knows, it's moving all the way through into the other side and moving into that shadow and working through it and doing a lot of the healing work that comes with that. So, I think for me, that's what I think of anybody that is a spiritual badass. And that's something that I know that I do myself. I fully am willing to face that and move through it. And I don't just use spirituality as a surface level tool. So yeah, that's how I would answer that.
Beautiful. That's definitely a spiritual badass, if you ask me. So you are an eco nutritionist. Tell me more about this. How did you get started? How did that come about? Did you make up this name? Tell me everything.
There's a few of us out there. I didn't make it up. And I think, in terms of it's definitely not a term that is that has, a very specific definition. But the way I look at it is a nutritionist who approaches food through the lens of how food affects our earth body. And that's largely how I approach nutrition. So what works for the earth body usually is what works best for our own body, and that interconnectedness between our individual bodies and the earth body, and really seeing how we eat and how we live on this earth through that lens, I find to be really helpful, not just from the way that we connect with our food sourcing and that kind of thing, more of those external things, but how we embody our experience of food. So the more tapped into the earth we are, the more we're able to experience our own body in that very centered and holistic way. So that's what being an eco nutritionist means to me, is just that both are connected, the earth and the individual body.
Beautiful. Can you explain to someone who's not familiar, what does individual body, aka physical body, earth body, and light body means? You didn't speak about light body, but that's also a different type, just in case someone doesn't know what those are and how to connect to those. And where do I begin?
Yeah. I mean, so the earth body, the planet we live upon, and then our own individual body, our physical body, and then light body being our spirit body, our energetic body. And there is, so much overlap between the earth body and our own body. If we think about the way that energy flows through the water, the land mass to water ratio, like there's all of these overlaps. And I really do think of the earth body as this living, breathing body that is very similar to our own body, and that we have to live in a symbiotic way with, right? So interweaving all of those things, the light body, the physical, our own individual physical body, each of our own bodies that we live in, and then the earth body itself is such an important factor to consider how that intersects when it comes to our health and well-being. Yeah.
So how did you get started on this journey? Did you have something within your life where you just didn't have that mind, body, soul, spirit, food connection yet? And maybe you were really sick. I'm not really sure of your story, but I would love to know
Yeah.
more. Like, how did you get started about this? Because that's such an important thing and something that like so many people need to preach nowadays, because it really is like we heal ourselves through our bodies, through food. Like food is the biggest nutrient out there. Most people, they completely like forget about it. They're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to the doctor and get this medication, be on this, and I'm gonna be healed. Well, like no, food actually is such a big source of healing, such a big source of nutrients as well. So I'd love to know a little bit more about your story as well.
Yeah, yeah, I love that, how you just phrased that, because it's the most tangible way we take in, that we connect with the earth, right? We actually take in the earth body into our own body, and the energetics of that, and then the actual nutrients of that are so important. I grew up really close to the earth. I grew up in the middle of the woods and had in a family where we grew our own food. We grew animals for food. Had a big garden. We wild foraged. And so that was something that, as you know, as a child, I didn't know to appreciate in any certain way, but certainly as I've grown older and moved into urban environments, realized how much that helped me embody the experience of the earth and connect to it. I found yoga at an early age and became a yoga teacher pretty early on in life. And that was the first time that I really had an experience of working through traumas that I had been through, and really connecting with that depth and really embodying myself, or feeling embodied. And then becoming the yoga teacher and helping people to feel that embodiment, that which was very disconnected from the food experience. But from going on then from there into getting my master's degree in nutrition, I had this concept of interweaving yoga and nutrition together, very much in the way of like, cool, I'll teach people how to like move their body and how to eat well. And what I really found in the more recent years of intersecting those two is what I really needed to get at, which is the experience of embodying through nutrition and really dropping into the body and that experience of the body, and experiencing through food through the body versus through the mind. So I think, and then I really came back to my roots in that time of having that earth body experience with food.
Beautiful. That's so nice. Like I just spent the weekend in the forest, so I totally resonate with all of that. Like we were climbing trees. I'm 30 years old and I'm climbing trees over here. It was so great just to reconnect to that nature. And sometimes we really do forget about that, similar to forgetting that like food actually is nutrients. The more colorful the food is, the better it is for your body. So good. So how does food actually move through your body and flow through your being, whether it's energetic or physical?
Yeah, I mean, and I find that they're like actually really reflected in each other. So oftentimes, like I just actually got a phone with a client who was talking about how her digestion is really off and it's really moving fast through her, and that's been uncomfortable for her. And so we started talking about what was going on in her life, and because it's almost always reflected in what, our energetic experience is. And it is like a very stressful, busy time for her. And so, when I'm working with somebody, we always talk about how the food is moving through us, right? The actual digestion, the science of how food moves through us and gets broken down and then moves out. And then also the energetics of it, like what is the energy of the food you're eating, and how is the energy in your life reflected in how your digestion is actually able to pull that food apart and weave it into the body. So they're really connected. And that's where I think it's a really exciting place in nutrition to work with, because it is often so much that we're either working in the energetic place, or with nutrition, especially working in the very physical place. And there's this intersection that can happen where we can really see one reflected in the other. And sometimes doing the more energetic work can help slow digestion down. And sometimes it's more about the actually working with the food. But I like to say that my practice involves combining the art of like yogic philosophy and energetics with the science of nutrition, because both are so important.
That's beautiful. And I love that you bring in different modalities as well. You do chakra healings, you bring in the yoga as well as the nutrition, because it really is everything combined together. It's like the whole mind, body, heart, soul, and spirit. Everything really is combined together in order for us to be the best versions of ourselves, whether that's through food, whether that's through meditation. So I love that you combine the different modalities on an energetic standpoint, and also like from a physical standpoint as well. So how do you work with clients, for example, like someone coming in, your previous client that had digestive issues? Obviously, not everyone can go on the same diet. It just doesn't make sense. We're all different bodies. We all have different bodies. But so for example, the client that came to you with the digestive issues, she's not able to digest her food fully. She's feeling crappy, like she has all the stress in her life. Like, what would be your process to take that client?
Yeah. And I mean, for her specifically, we've been working together for a long time, so we can kind of drop in right away. But for somebody who comes to me, that's new, I don't ever, work with any one diet or any one kind of like a general concept of how somebody should eat, because it is so individual. And at the same time, we are all human bodies, right? So our physiologics are very much the same. So there are things that we can work with in terms of flow and our energetic patterns. But then, each individual has their own specific blocks or speeds and frequencies that those patterns are moving through. So when I work with somebody, we take, from the science perspective, we take a really detailed intake of what they're eating and how they eat, because how you eat can be just as important as what you eat, and get a full understanding of their digestion and how all of that was working. And then I really just have them talk to me about their life and what's going on in their life, how they're moving in relationship with the other people in their life, with their work, the way that they produce and create, with their connection with the earth. And usually as they're talking through those things, I can start to understand the certain patterns of their energy. And then that often is reflected in what they've told me about their digestion. So from there, we will work through like a plan with food to help use the energetics of food and the properties of food to support their system. And at the same time, then work with like some guided meditation and some tools that they can use spiritually and energetically to really help those energetic patterns. Again, if it's a block or if it's a frequency that's too sped up, to do what it needs to do to help them find more harmony with their own body, and again, with the earth body, that can be such a massive place of support.
That's beautiful. Usually when I think of someone going to a nutritionist, I'm like, oh, they're just trying to lose weight. What are some of those other blocks or some of those other things, I should say, as that you help people with?
Yeah. So it is, so often it is just associated with weight loss, which I call it weight release. And it usually is a byproduct of some other work we're doing. Because generally the blocks that I see, I think of them kind of in terms of chakras. So, for a lot of women, there's this a disconnect with our root chakra and our really like our feeling like we have this ability to be here on this earth and to take up space and to claim who we are, and that can be reflected in sometimes the weight of our body, like our body trying to hold on to weight to help like ground us and bring us in closer connection with the earth. Sometimes it can be reflected in like the way we disconnect from our food, because we're kind of living in this disconnect from our body, which in turn disconnects us from the earth. And then that creates this dissociation from our eating. So when we eat, we aren't fully taking the food in with our mind, body, and heart, right? we're using it to numb, or we're not allowing ourselves to enjoy it, which is a huge piece of well-being, is actually enjoying our experience of food, of nourishing ourselves, which can happen on so many levels. So with that example, we would really, if there's that disconnect, we would work with opening up that connection between the earth and the body, eating foods that really help draw that energy in, like red foods and root foods, and to slow down our experience of food so that we can embody it. When we eat quickly, we're not able to really allow our body to experience it. We're eating more with our minds. So we'll work through different approaches that can help bring that experience more fully of the pleasure and of the food moving into us.
Beautiful. So you do work a lot with chakras, and we were just talking about chakras. So how does food associate with the chakras, and that moves that energy throughout your body through every single one of the chakras? Like, is there anything particularly we should be doing in order to have more vibrant chakras, open up our chakras more with the food, and as well as our bodies?
Yeah, I mean, I think like having a quick check-in with your chakras to really notice where your blocks are. And again, working with someone, if that can be identified with different patterns and energies that are happening in your life. But if you can do that for yourself and move through, those, just a exercise where you're taking yourself through each energy center and just noticing if one feels dim, or if one feels like it's sped up or too slow, or disconnected from like the one above or below it. Then yeah, there are the different colors that resonate with the chakras are reflected in the foods we eat. So just like you mentioned, the rainbow of foods, the color of foods, and indicate the nutrients that we take in, which is why it's great to have that full spectrum of color. They also, each of those colors resonates with each of our different chakra centers. So, for example, like I mentioned, the root chakra, if there's a block there, eating red foods to support that can be, that's a way you can support the root chakra. Or, if we're having a difficult time with like motivation or inspiration to cook, a lot of times people come to me and they're like, how can I just do it quickly? How can I do dinner and as fast as I can? And we see that all over our culture, right? Like what's,
no one has time for anything anymore.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
How to do dinner in less than 5 minutes. And we're always looking for that quick fix with food. And the thing that we miss with that, which is very connected to our sacral chakra, is that our working with food and our working with the earth, elements, which is food, the gifts from the earth, is part of that is the creativity we put into it, and the inspiration that the part of the nourishment comes from our working with it. So when we try to race past that and move to just the very productive part of food, which is the eating it and nourishing our actual body, it reflects, in the way we move through society, where a lot of us don't spend time in that creative, like nourishing space. We just try to move to production and producing, and so it's kind of balancing that out. So we could support the sacral chakra with eating orange foods, which we know is the color that resonates with the sacral chakra, right? And spending some of that time connecting in to feed that sacral chakra, to feed that creativity by working with getting inspired around food, and maybe taking a cooking class or looking through cookbooks, or moving into a new, trying a new vegetable out, that kind of thing, to really nurture that creativity.
That's beautiful. Yeah, it's so important. Yeah, like I was saying, and you were just mentioned as well, like it's so important to have eat in the entire rainbow of colors, because that's where the nutrients are packed. Like it's not in the fast food, obviously not. It's from those real earth foods that come from the earth, that grow on trees, come from the ground, wherever they come from, and they're all massive amounts of colors, and they're so tasty. So good.
Yeah.
So you also you chat a lot about masculine and feminine energy. How does that play into the foods and our bodies as well?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, like with so many parts of our structures or societal structures, they're very masculine oriented, and that's something that is crumbling right now in so many different ways, right? And a lot of the ways we've approached food and the body have been very masculine energy structured, right? Like with diets and with exercise and with a lot of numbers, like calories and grams of this and grams of that, and thinking through food in these very external ways. And it's really exciting to me right now. Like in the past few years, I've noticed this trend of really moving against that, and against diet culture, and women really starting to claim more sovereignty over their bodies, and letting those kind of externally guided things begin to crumble. And again, that's something we can see reflected in so many different parts of our society, but in nutrition specifically, I think that this is that's how that's happening. So and again, I think we have to be careful to not do away with that completely, right? Like get on the pendulum and ride it all the way over and stay there. But to find that center, which is really finding that harmony between the masculine and the feminine energy. So tapping into that intuitive place more, into that creative place more, a place of inspiration, of connecting with food and the nourishment, and being less focused on the end product, on the goals and the external, the product of the food and the product of our bodies, and moving a little bit more into connecting with that intuitive place and that creative place to balance out this again very masculine structured orientation we've had to food in for a long time.
For a long time. So it's 2022. We should all stop counting calories and we should just start intuitively eating. Mm-hmm. Yes, beautiful. Do you have any final tips, tricks, or anything else you'd like to share with the audience? Tips, tricks on intuitive eating, I guess, eco nutrients, how to connect to your body, how to connect back to the earth as well with food.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think intuitive eating is something that is such a buzzword right now. It is something that everybody is really trying to do more of. And I think we have to really we have to give ourselves a lot of grace with it, because we have practiced eating in these other ways for so long, and connecting with food in these very externally guided ways in a culture that really supports that. So moving into that intuitive place and just practicing it. So practicing slowing down when it comes to food choices, connecting with the body, and dropping into an embodied experience of food, which is again a very slowed down place. So but just practicing that over and over and over again, so that it can come when we eat from that centered place, we are drawn more to the things our body needs and less of what we're told we need. And a huge piece of that is connecting with the earth body. So I find that whenever it's hard to feel that centered place and connect in with how the chakras are feeling, how, what our center is feeling, what our intuition is wanting, when we're having a hard time trusting that or even connecting with that, the earth body is always a place to go to reconnect. And so whether that be just sitting upon the earth, going to your favorite place in the earth, going to the forest and playing, having that very creative childlike, like you mentioned, or, connecting with our food in, spending some time, either gathering food if you can, connecting with it at a farm or in the wild, and taking some time to work with it, like making a massaged kale salad, or or really taking some time to chop up some root vegetables and really moving slowly with it, putting on some good music and just connecting with the food. So because that is an actual way we connect with the earth each day. I'm convinced that our part of the reasons we have to eat every single day, multiple times a day, is because it is something that helps keep us connected with the earth no matter what. So to take that into like the preparation and the time we spend with food, that this is a time we're connecting with the earth body, and that will help to draw that embodiment of the food in when we eat it.
That's beautiful, especially as women. I love that you're like, oh, put on some music, chop up, massage your kale.
Yeah.
As women, like that's so important for us because we are the nurturers. We're the ones that are supposed to prepare the food. And needless to say, obviously, men can do it as well. But we're the ones that are in the flow, connect to that feminine energy. We're in 2022. We don't need to be counting macros, counting calories, counting doing this all the time. Like be more in the flow with your food, with how you're preparing your food, and then you're gonna enjoy it. And then all of a sudden you're gonna see all this weight come off and you're like, damn, I look good
Yeah,
without
yeah.
even realizing it.
It is. I
Thank
mean,
you.
so many people tap into their intuition in a different way when they experience it like that, for sure.
It's beautiful. More people need to start doing that. And I hope that everyone who's listening to this takes away some little tidbits and is going to start dancing around with their kale salads soon.
Me too.
Thank you so much, Katrina. Where can people find you? Where can they follow you? Where can they get more information about you?
So my website is nourishandbe.com. A lot of information there. And then I share a lot on Instagram too, which is at nourish.and.be. So both of those places.
Perfect. Thank you so much. It was so lovely chatting with you today.
Thank you so much. It was great to talk to you too.
For more tips and tricks on business and spirituality, join us inside the Spirituality for Badass Babes Facebook group.